Wow.
So I'll call the meeting to order. It is 5 o'clock. Thank you for everyone for being here and for anyone who's watching live or watching later. I will move on to section 2 for declaration of pecuniary interest as a reminder to declare if something does arise. I'll move to and special welcome to Deputy Mayor McEwen, who is sitting there. Mayor Atkinson had a prior commitment, so thanks for being here.
Welcome. My pleasure.
I will go to section 3, which is delegations. We do have something under 3.1. We have a presentation for laws. So I'll turn it over to you here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation to come here today. So this is just a really brief conversation. I was invited to talk about the letter that was sent back on October the 10th with respect to a request for debt. Basically, what laws is we are in a situation where we're looking at a major capital investment that we don't have the capital for. It's a unique situation for us. Usually we can fund these things or we can stagger them out in a situation where we can fund them as we go. But in this case, we don't. So, but basically we're looking at all our help from our municipalities to be able to secure debt financing for this situation. So, but just give you a little bit of background before we get into that kind of stuff. So this is a focus at the Weston Pumping Station. So this is a major LAWS facility, significant resiliency and redundancy for all the members of LAWS. So at this facility is 2 45 megaliter tanks. I'm not sure if you're aware of these tanks. They're pretty massive. So it's a combined storage capacity of 90 megaliters. And from there, the facility is built in a situation where we can bring the water treatment plant offline and we can pump from this facility. So we can fill the East Lambton booster station from there. It's a really critical system for us. And right now it's in a situation where we have to do a recoding of both tanks. So both tanks are estimated about $16 million for both. And originally we had planned to do them one at a time, but based on just consultation with our consulting engineer, suggestion was to actually undertake them over 2 years, but as a single project. And that's where we're having the issue. Basically, we have the money to do the first tank, but we're falling short with the second tank right now. So right now, that design is at 100%. We're ready to go to tender with it. We plan to have it awarded by the end of the year, or sorry, we plan to have it closed by the end of the year and awarded at the January. I plan to have it awarded in January at the LAWS board meeting, whether we get support or not. If we don't get support, it'll be for a single tank. If it is, then we will move with the double. So basically, the request is from LAWS is for municipal council support from each member for their portion of the debt allocation. So it will occupy your books for the number of years that we have to repay this back. That's the downside for LAWS. We're not independent from our members. We are basically a department of our members. So we would occupy that situation. So this amount is in the total of, it's about $298,000. That's the portion of the 5.166 million that we would need to close the gap with respect to our reserves. And obviously these are all estimates right now. We'll have an actual price by the end of the year, be able to tighten up that number a bit. But so I'm here to answer any questions. I hope that was just a really brief presentation. I know that I bored you with my last presentation. Mayor McEwen, I think you did, right? Sorry. So I can say anything.
Perfect, thanks. So what I'll do is I have a motion here and then I'll open it up for questions if anyone has any questions for you while you're here as well. So I have a motion here moved by committee member Jeff DeVlute, seconded by Councillor Bob Wolvette, that the request from LAWS be received and that staff be directed to include LAWS 2024 capital contribution and debt allocation in the 2024 water budget.
So further explanatory, if I may, through the chair. So the $298,000, which LAWS is asking for us. As you can see, the other municipalities have significantly larger portions than us because they use significantly larger portions of water. We have the $298,000 available through our reserves and through our existing current year revenues. So what staff is recommending through that motion is that 298,000 be added to our capital budget for 2024 and then be paid outright. Staff does not feel the need to debenture that amount for repayment. So given that it works within our current financial plan and our current financial situation, it makes more sense to provide the funds to laws directly without incurring the interest charge ourselves, so we can move forward on other projects.
Thank you. So I will open it up for questions, whether for whoever we have questions for. I'll start on my right here.
I don't have any questions or concerns. Don't have much choice. Need water.
My question would be regarding the expense, then this was obviously clearly known that we needed to replace. It was just hopeful that the two tanks would be done separately. Was this expected to be an expense on the town side to cover this amount? Like, or is this just the fact that we have the reserves? It wasn't planned on being a debt, but since we have the reserves that we can cover it.
No, it was not an anticipated expense, but that is exactly correct. We do have the reserves, and this year is a little bit lighter of year when it comes to investment in capital. So it can be put into this year's budget without adversely affecting the budget or our reserves.
And that in the letter, it mentions that this is critical infrastructure. I just didn't know exactly how. Like, I take it that the town's water is drawn from these storage tanks.
So through the chair, it is it's a primary, like the storage, the 45, the dual or the twin 45 megaliter storage tanks, that's a resiliency piece for the system. Allows us to bring the water treatment offline so we can do maintenance for it. So from that facility, we provide for all the members basically.
So under normal operations, we don't draw water from that tank.
Right. But it allows maintenance of.
If portions of the system went down or become taxed, they could draw from that tank to backfeed us. And additionally, Laws is a cooperative, so we are part owners as a cooperative, and Laws does not have the ability to take on debt. We have to take on the debt through ourselves and provide it to Laws, and that's why this request is in its form.
Yeah, that made sense from the letter. Yeah, no further questions. All right, thank you. I will move my left. Councilor Bobblebeck.
Did I hear you say you're gonna repay this back over time?
Sure, that's correct. The goal, the structure of the funding hasn't been established yet. We're just in very preliminary stages. So this is basically, we're looking for funding for a 2025 project. So we wouldn't actually need this funding till the end of next year. This time next year, that's when we'd actually be pulling the trigger on that. So there's a multiple different situations we could do. I'd recommend a structured loan repayment over a number of years. We're looking at probably 5 years for something like this. That's what we would probably propose. And
Would there be interest on that loan?
sure, yes, there would be interest on that.
So really, we're just money going out and money coming back in, right? And it'll go back into our water reserves the same as it is now, I'm assuming.
How does that work, Clinton, though? Because if Laws is spending that, and we're a member of Laws and we have to pay for those expenses, it's not coming back to us though.
So to the chair, Laws is totally willing to support this, the idea of looking, like understanding how this would work and coming up with some kind of apparatus or something to be able to deal with this separately, right? So that's a really good question, though. We have to explore that with the lawyers and with our bank and everything. So I don't have an answer for that yet. If that's even like, if we can do that, I don't see why we can't. We had a quick chat with Mike. I had a quick chat with Mike, who's talked to CIBC. But you're right. So how does the debt get applied across all membership? If this municipality's already, basically, removed themselves from the situation, right? As far as I'm concerned, that's your portion. It's done. It's paid up. Everybody has the option to do that. So as far as I would be concerned, you guys would not, you'd be exempt from any of the, the additional fees.
So it's not that they're repaying it back. They're talking about repayment of the
To the
debt
bank.
itself from the banks that the other municipalities get. So in our situation, we're not getting money from the banks, so we don't have, there's nothing for Laws to pay back or us to pay back, because this is what we would owe them for our portion.
I guess my second question was, and it always comes up whenever you get involved in engineering. Why do we have to go with the two? Why can you not just do one and 10 years from now do the other? Like, I know they all, like to kind of do the thing big, but the economy is struggling. You know, I know that even listening to the news today, Laws is taking a look at all the money that they're spending on things too, and we're the same here. Why too?
The share. Size, right? It's excessive, right, for you know, for the amount that we actually, that we seem to put out, right? It's not, it's 3 days worth basically, that's what it is. And when it comes down to it, we don't have any kind of elevated storage capacity. We have one intake, you know, we are very dependent on our one water treatment plant on the lake. There's a lot of discussion when we were talking about doing our master plan originally back in 2019 that we redid that. And at that time, we explored that option. And at the time, it was decided that the resiliency piece was an important piece. And I agree with that. You know, it does have, the facility's built to basically match the water treatment plant itself. So we can, you know, we can use it in that fashion, right? And there's the water treatment plant was built in the 70s. We were constantly taking stuff offline and retrofitting and repairing and fixing, right? So I would not recommend that we downsize that facility. And then the second part is, so the coating system that's on it right now is failing right now, right? So we have big, you know, holes in the side of the tank, not holes, but like through the coating system, right? So as we delay coating it, we're losing structure basically on the side of the tank. And so that was another question for our consulting engineer that did the condition assessment, and it was done in 2019. As far as he was concerned, it was an imminent situation then, right? So we've been kind of coming along, building a reserve, trying to tackle this thing. So those are the two rationales for why we're maintaining the 90 megaliters and why we're doing them back to back or trying to.
All I have.
No, I had a discussion with Adam a little ahead of time, so I don't have any questions.
So I guess I just do have one clarification question for you, Mr. Samantha, I guess. So the way this motion is written is to include for two, if the other member municipalities decide they only want to do one, are we still providing the money for the two, or will we then be switching to one just based on majority of members?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there would be no need for that.
Any other further questions? So again, the motion is to have the request from Laws be received and that staff be directed to include the Laws 2024 capital contribution and debt allocation in the 2024 water budget. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Carried. And thank you again for being here and answering questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to section 4. I have a motion moved by Councilor Wolvett, seconded by committee member Lute, that minutes be adopted by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee, and that those confidential minutes of the closed sessions of the committee remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And that is for our committee meeting minutes of October 5th, 2023. Is there any questions or concerns with the minutes? Scanning, nothing? Bob?
Just the Muskoka Trail. Where are we at with that? Right.
Chair, if I may. I'd be happy to inform you that they started construction this morning. We had a couple of delays due to locates and contractor availability. But I understood they started this morning, and actually our operators are here today if they want to give you an update on progress as of today.
Sure.
This morning, we did start. We did only manage to do one today. Just due to the fact of trying to find where that service connected to the water main itself. We did find that there was no tracer wire associated with the service. And it is a copper water service, but there was a plastic repair done previously, so I was not able to trace it. So we spent a good portion of the morning trying to find that connection, but it has been changed out or replaced, which actually did stop the leak on Muskoka Trail. So should make life a little easier moving forward, a little less water to work with.
Did stop the leak that was originally, right here. Oh, that's a good thing. That was the one that was going down the drain and stuff.
So
Wow, that's a big find. Okay, awesome.
I think you said you found that the maps we were provided were not overly very accurate,
yes,
hence why we only got to one today. It was quite the search and find process.
based on the measurements, the engineered drawings were approximately 5 meters off on that service, so.
That's all.
5 meters.
Moving
That's
forward.
pretty off.
The rest of them are accurate. I did notice that there was tracer wire on the next one, so hopefully. Continues to be the case. Just where is it? So.
That's a good report. Thank you.
Any other questions for the minutes? So we have a motion to adopt the October 5th meeting minutes. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to section 5. Nothing further. I know we just talked about the copper wire. Anything else from the previous meeting? Seeing nothing, so I'll move on to section 6. I have a motion moved by community member Jeff DeLute, seconded by Councillor Bob Wolvett, that accounts as listed be received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee. That's the water list and the sewer list for September 2023. Are there any questions? I'll start on my left with Councillor Wolvett.
I don't have any questions today, sir.
Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't see any $10 ones here, so.
The meter exchanges and read, that was for the Neptune meters?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no further questions.
No questions.
Okay. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move on to section 7, staff reports. 7.1 is the proposed 2024 water and sewer budget. I have a motion here to get it on the table, and then I'll open it up for questions. It was moved by Councillor Bob Wolvett, seconded by committee member Jeff DeVlute, that the report by Adam Sabansky, Director of Public Works / CAO, dated October 27th, 2023, regarding the 2024 proposed water and sewer budget be received, endorsed, and forwarded to council for approval. So I assume there might be some questions here, so I will start on my right. Paul, do you have anything?
Looking through the list of expenses, seems most of these look familiar. Were there any unexpected unplanned expenses on this list?
For the budget, no, everything for 2024 is proceeding as planned. The only unforeseen expense would have been the laws capital reserve that we're sort of transfer that we just endorsed in principle, and I was able to include that into the budget without significantly affecting our reserves or the current revenue.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions for Adam.
Yeah.
Notice that in the line items, there's a line item for the repair and replacement of meters and BFP repairs of 50,000. We're doing a meter replacement project, so we have all brand new meters. Just wondering why we're carrying such a large replacement or repair budget going into next year, as well as the one calls. I see that we're projecting the 3 times last year's budget, and we only had an actual cost of over $1,000. So I'm just wondering why we're carrying 10,000 there. Or is there plans to have a lot of locates done, I guess?
So the largest of the Ontario one call expense comes in at year end. Or over the last 3 years, that has been the case. So in our contract with Jacobs, we do have an allocated set number of call outs per year for locates. That is assessed on a per property basis. So if you have a whole street that get located, The locate that Jacobs is paid for is by the property. That's how it's written into the contract. So at year end, we typically receive a large out of scope invoice from Jacobs, which details all the work that was carried out of scope. I reviewed that very carefully with Jacobs management. And the last 3 years, as you can see from the actuals, that has resulted in a significant overage in locates. So they have slowed down a bit. So that is why I didn't push it all the way up to meet the 32,000, which we saw in 2021. But I did feel the need to start pushing that line item up as I see the current locate numbers continuing to be level. The provinces and the federal government is continuing to push broadband and high-speed internet, which means they'll be installing cables throughout Plympton-Wyoming, which results in a large number of locate requests. Your first question was in regard to the water meters. Yes, I'm hoping that line does reduce. That line is also used when our staff goes out and inspects new water meters in new homes. And if there's a water meter repair of a meter that wasn't just replaced, that's where that line item would go to. So if we see that that is trending downward over the next year or so, we would definitely take a look at that and see if those funds can be better allocated to another area. It's been trending up largely for a number of years, and that's why we did bump it up this year. But most of those meters are related to new replacement more than maintaining the old meter system.
Okay. And I noticed in the 2023 actual, there's no wage or benefits in the water. Against the budget line item, so obviously when you look at the report overall, there's a huge surplus in water and sewer. And yet we're looking to do an increase to.
Absolutely, and I haven't preached it at this committee yet, but those numbers into 2023 actuals are very unofficial. A lot of our wage allocations and allocations from other accounts occur toward year end. So that's the way the treasurer has been doing it for a number of years. You don't have those wages until towards the year end. So unfortunately, as of September 30th, I did not have those wages to go from. So that's why I budgeted using the 2022 values and seeing what kind of trends we have coming up from those years.
So the surplus that we show now might not necessarily be once you put all the actual accounting in, is what you're saying.
I'm expecting that we will have a surplus this year. There was nothing overly significant other than the Muskoka Trail works. That being said, we underspent in a few line items too, so I'm not expecting the budget to be in a deficit. I'm expecting the water and the sewer budget to be in surplus that year.
Okay. And I have one further question just regarding the Urban and Fed Line East project. I see that we have water line expenditures for 2024 of 350,000 and 450 in 2025.
Yes.
And Laws has to replace their line. I just don't know, was there any consideration or is there an option for us to explore? Just having the one water line there and the residents along Confederation use the Laws line and save us close to $1 million and having duplicate water lines running down the street.
So under revenues, you'll see that Laws is paying for their work. So that line is being paid for through Laws. Mind you, it's all the same taxpayers in the end. Long story short, though, in regards to the two water mains, no. Laws is trying to minimize having their supply mains act as distribution mains. What happens is their mains tend to run at higher pressures. They also tend to experience pressure spikes when the pumps kick on and off. So they do not like us having direct connections into those mains. There are areas throughout Plympton-Wyoming which historically were allowed to connect, and they've maintained that historic connection. But in urban Wyoming, they've never purposely allowed services off the main. There are a few that snuck on there somehow. So they wanted to maintain that line without services on it. And even those services that were mistakenly put on the Laws main on Confederation line will be put onto the town's main during this project.
That's such a question that I thought was maybe duplication, but that clarifies it. Would also help some of the water pressure issues along Confed.
Yes, unfortunately, if you're directly connected to the Laws main, you'd have access to significantly more pressure due to the elevation of our tower.
That's all the questions I have.
Perfect. Thanks, Jen. Thank you, Mary.
No, I don't have any questions. I haven't been in this long enough to really, get into it. So I'll just listen to the intelligent.
You'll let Councilor Lovett ask your questions. Councilor Lovett?
Yes. don't have any big issues with it. We already kind of set the pace here. Back 5 years ago on our annual increases for both the water and sewer, obviously 3.6. Water and 4.4 for the sewer. That was a 10-year plan. It looks like we're pretty well sticking to the script. Which is good. I guess it's something we got to keep an eye on because I know you had warned us before that may not cover it, but so just depending on how things go. So, no, other than that, and the water meter replacement, we're not replacing all the water meters, are we? No. Because I had a fellow tell me the other day, he had set up an appointment to have his water meter replaced, but they only replaced the outside. Right, so, yeah, so I guess that's,
So if the meter is less than 15 years old, only the reading portion of it gets replaced. If the meter is over 15 years old, the whole meter system gets replaced.
yeah, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure. I didn't remember having any discussion on the outside portion, on the inside, so, okay, that's good. No, I don't have any other questions on the.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions before I call for the vote. The first one, Mr. Spansky, for the unexpected major plumbing modifications for Neptune, is that going to impact the overall budget that we had approved for that whole project?
Even through the chair, if I may, even when we expanded the project to do the meters that were from 20 to 15 years, we still had almost $300,000 of space between the budget and the tender price. So I'm not expecting that project to go over budget. It may be much closer to the budgeted value once the meter pits and the major plumbing is dealt with, but I'm not expecting it to go over.
And then I also have a couple more for the sump pump program. I guess the first question is, do we think we're going to hit that total amount that we budgeted for 2023? And if not, is that getting added above and beyond next year's? Or is it reset?
It's not getting added above and beyond. It's kind of going into reserves, and some of the reserves are coming back out to help with those projects that are multi-year projects. So I'd have to look to see where I put all my WIP progress. Just bear with me for 1 second, please. So under sewer, you will see that under the revenues, there is a line item for sewage reserves from previous year projects. And this budget has 1.057 million, or sorry, 1.045 million in that line. The majority of that is obviously for a wastewater treatment plant in Plympton, which we've only been doing the engineering this year. We did not get to the construction portion, but some of those funds are carried over from last year's sump pump and backwater valve program, and then kind of funds it again this year.
Thank you. And then my last one is just a thing I noticed today with the province's forecast today. I know they announced the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund for repair, rehab, and expansion of water and wastewater infrastructure. Are we optimistic that since we're one of the fastest growing municipalities in Plympton County, that we might be able to tap into some of that 200 million? I know it's province wide, but a million could be nice.
It's always a competition.
I know.
So we'll be entering that competition for sure. And yes, given we're the fastest growing municipality in Plympton County, I would suggest that we have a good stake to it. But we'll have to get our best grant writers on that to make sure that we get it.
That's all I had. Any other questions, comments? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, everybody. We'll move on to item 7.2. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bob Wolvett, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the report by Nicole Campbell, Executive Assistant Finance, dated October 25th, 2023, regarding the 2024 Environmental Services Committee calendar be received, that the Environmental Services Committee approve the 2024 committee meeting dates, and that the approved meeting dates be forwarded on to the town clerk for inclusion into the 2024 council and committee calendar. Is there any questions or concerns with basically what that means is just sticking with what we've been doing? Is there any concerns with the timing, 5 o'clock? First Thursday? Say nothing, all in favor? Carried.
Was there one meeting we changed to 4 o'clock? Maybe that was on another committee.
I think that was another one.
Looking at another one today. Yeah, I think it was on fire. Sorry.
And item 7.3, motion moved by committee member Jeff DeVlute, seconded by deputy mayor McEwen. For the report dated October 26th, 2023 by Nicole Campbell, executive assistant on the updated environmental services committee terms of reference be received and approved by the committee for the current 4-year administration. Is there any questions from the committee members about that terms of reference?
No questions.
Nothing.
Were there any basic changes?
It was based,
Something that would, it's pretty close to what it has been.
yeah, it was just changing it from like water and sewer to environmental services.
You want to change it back?
Pardon me?
You want to change the name back?
You know what? I do. And you know what? Our CAO makes the same mistake I did, Water and Sewer Committee. It makes more sense, but
Well, there was one suggestion made that was really off, wasn't it? When they first were talking about it, never mind.
I better call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. I've got nothing under 8 for bylaws, so I'll move on to item 9. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by committee member Jeff DeVlute, that the minutes from the laws meeting be received. That's for September 28th, 2023, and then a draft business case for laws. Mr. Spansky.
So I probably should ask Clinton. It's his baby more than mine. But one thing that the laws board is looking into is forming a municipal service corporation that would eliminate some of the problem that he was discussing earlier today. Currently, as I mentioned, laws kind of works as a co-op. It's really kind of just owned by percentages of us, and there's no formal business structure. And because of that, laws cannot take on debt. Laws cannot apply for grants. So they're in limbo, which makes it very hard for them to come up with revenues to do very large drinking water projects. So the best way to rectify that situation would be to form a municipal service corporation. Best example of that would be i.e. Blue Water Power, which is owned by the municipalities, has a board of director sat on by the municipalities. But because they are their own corporate entity, they can have debt, they can get grants, so it makes it easier for them to do so. You can see that example coming to light when you see the Petrolia system. So Petrolia is solely owned by Petrolia, and they sell the water at a per meter cost to their member municipalities. Because Petrolia is the sole owner, they can go apply for grants and they can incur debt for the system. And they have been extremely successful in getting very large grants for that system. While laws has kind of had to do it on the backs of our own debts. So by switching to this system, there is hope that that would provide us with better options to increase our revenues into laws and better flexibility for the municipalities that are its members as a whole. Plympton-Wyoming's group technical lead, which is me for the short term, and the mayor agree that the municipal service corporation is something we definitely want to strongly consider. But there are other board members who are more hesitant about that, so it may take a little while to get from point A to point B, but we're hopeful that it can occur in the next, at least this term of council, I would hope.
Thank you. Is there any questions to see if Mr. Spansky can answer on that? If you have any? No questions. See nothing? Call for the vote, all in favor? That's carried. Nothing under correspondence action required, so I'll move on to recommended reading and routine approval / information items. I have a motion moved by committee member Jeff DeVlute, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the correspondence relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee and filed accordingly. And we've got in there the Jacobs monthly report for September 2023. We've all had a chance to take a look at that. Is there any questions? I know we've got Jacobs here. Is there any questions? Start with Councillor Wolvett.
No, I don't. It's a good report.
I don't have any questions. There's a lot of reading.
That's a fun committee, isn't it? Councillor, did you have some?
No, I'm good. It's a good report.
Nothing further for me.
No questions. Okay.
I'm just hoping that you guys are enjoying or liking the changes we've made to that report, so. If you'd like to see something else, just let us know in that report, but. We're willing to make it more enjoyable for you to read, so.
No, it's good. Lots of information is laid out pretty clearly. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, thank you. So I'll call for
Good job.
call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. I will move on to section 12, which is new business related to our Environmental Services Committee. Councilor Wolvett, you got anything?
The only item I would have is, to ask Adam, garbage and recycle. Changes, redesign, Ontario government obviously taking over some of this stuff. Where are we at? And is it gonna happen in 2024?
Thank you, Councillor Wolvett. You took one of my new business items.
Oh, sorry.
So we started in the intern program mid-year this year. And we've started to utilize the new system where we drop off our recycling materials, not to Transco, which we had hired under contract a number of years ago. They're now going to the waste management transfer station. The difference from a number of years ago, we're not paying the bill. Circular Materials of Ontario is picking up the bill for those materials, and they're actually compensating us for our cost to collect those materials. So we were hoping to have the waste budget to you today. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, but we have been running the numbers. And so far, what we're seeing is that we're likely going to suggest at next meeting that no increase is necessary. As we are seeing that the reduced costs of the recycling and then the compensation for the collection of the recycling is sufficient to be able to maintain our current rates as is.
So our, like Marcotte, they will continue to do all the picking up and all that, but we won't deal directly with Marcotte. That'll be paid for by the government.
Currently, we have a contract with Marcotte to provide us with both household garbage collection and recycling. So the contract with Marcotte is through us and we pay Marcotte for those services directly. As we submit our information to Circular Materials Ontario, they take the amount of recycling we dropped off at their depot and they compensate us for that amount of recycling to cover for our collection costs by paying Marcotte.
So Marcotte will continue to do that, because I know at one time they didn't want a lot to do with recycle. Not much.
They are definitely going to continue doing our collection up until the 2025. In 2025, the province is hoping to transition all of its full producer responsibility, which means that the CMO will organize, pay for the contractors directly and the sorting and disposal. One thing to keep in mind, and we're just in the process of calculating it, is unfortunately because we send out paper bills, we are also a producer. So even though CMO is giving us funds back to help pay for us recycling, we will actually get an invoice to pay for our materials that we produce. So over the next few years, we'll have to sit down with council to see if we want to move to paperless to reduce those costs, because not only will we be paying for the postage and the paper physically itself, but we will be getting a bill from CMO for our contribution to those recycled materials. We do not do e-billing right now.
So where are we at with the electronic recycling? It's just going along the same as it has, fill the bucket, we send it away and get paid for.
Yes, sir. Electronic recycling has seen very little change over the last few years. The government hasn't spoken much about changing that process. It is fairly profitable for those recycling companies. So we currently make some revenue off our e-waste bins that our Public Works Department manages.
Yeah, we pretty well cost neutral, I believe.
We may become a little bit ahead, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not windfall for us.
And I guess the other thing, like, I still see electronics in garbage, which is not supposed to happen. And Marcot's not supposed to pick it up, but maybe something you just might want to mention. I've not witnessed them picking it up, but it does seem to disappear when it's out the side of the road. I know there's issues with even landfill not allowed to take electronics, so they can actually lose their license if they're caught taking that kind of stuff into landfill, so. Yeah, other than that, that's, I guess, why we call this the environmental committee.
There you go.
That's all I have for new business.
Nicole? I think Mr. Spansky has some stuff. Unless Bob took it off.
No, he had some left over, so Nicole should have had some new business. This is Nicole's second last meeting with this committee. Kalen King will be returning to the role in January. But Nicole will actually be will not be going to her old role in Public Works. Nicole will be moving on to the Executive Assistant of Corporate Services, starting in January.
Holy,
Congratulations.
congratulations, moving right up.
Second to that, we did discuss it briefly unofficially, but I wanted to give the committee heads up that we have hired a new Director of Public Works. They're scheduled to start November 20th. Mr. Paul De Silva, who currently is employed with St. Clair Township, will be joining us in that role starting November 20th.
Jeff Baker sits beside me at county council. He said that we were poaching.
So he'll be at the December meeting.
I believe so, yes.
All right, Jake, you guys got anything? Nothing? Perfect. I've got nothing under close, so I'll move to number 14. Moved by Councillor Bob Bolvet, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee regular meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting to be held December 7th, 2023 at 5 p.m. All in favor?
Discussion.
I might have some for that.
What's that? Yeah, just a question on replacement. Under our terms of reference, I just say, should we have an alternate if we can't be here at this meeting?
No, because you have 5 members,
Yeah.
so there's no need for an alternate. If you're a committee of 3 members, I would suggest that might be something that the terms of reference would want to consider, because we have ran into issues with that. But given that there's 5 members, which means that you can still have 2 miss the meeting and have quorum, I would suggest that's not necessary at this committee.
And if there were a situation where there's 3 of us missing, we'll reschedule.
Yeah.
That's everything. Thanks, everybody.